minutes after the hour. Thank you for joining us. We're in the third hour of the Power Hour today, 3 hours from 7 to 10 a.m. Central Time. Joining us is our guest, Stan Deyo, and in the studio, Doug Breathauer and myself. We're listening to Stan Deyo telling us about the concern about a missile shield. Robert emails me several very interesting, fascinating emails about the fact that Stan is avoiding the subject of Comet Ison and says that he feels like Stan Deyo is under a gag order. And he says, Stan, that you have avoided discussing the possibility of Comet Ison's devastating impact on Earth. Well, let me go back to Robert. And by the way, we are in the third hour. We're going to be waiting for our Shepard and Bellis will join us regarding the issue of Sandy Hook in just a few minutes. But Robert, finish what you had to say. I know you quote Jim McCanney quite a bit. We've tried very hard to get him on the program. But tell me what your thoughts are at this point, and what do you think Stan is not able to say that you would like to hear him say?
Well, I can understand he fears for his life, and they would march right up to him with CIA written on their head and blow him away if they felt they had to. So I can understand there are a lot of things he won't say because he has so much credibility in his background, so that anything he says, people will certainly believe it. So I don't blame him. But
what would you say for him that he can't say then?
I think the comet is the big threat, and they don't want anything said about that. They want to keep a lid on it because of the chaos it will develop, because people will realize that they're wasting their time in their endeavors, and that they should be preparing. My belief is you should be preparing spiritually now. We're at the end of a long course here. Earth is completely off track, and as I've told you in my emails, the cosmos is organic, and an immune response is coming. And it's got to be brought back in line again. But the powers that be want to save where they are, these Luciferians, as they call them, and I have personal experience with them. I know a fellow whose father was one, and he saw him change, and I didn't believe until he told me. But they're desperate to save the planet for themselves because they have nowhere else to go. I've been told by equally informed people as Mr. Deyo that we've been under surveillance by entities from the beginning.
All right, let me go back to that issue with Stan. Stan, are the aliens going to save us?
No, but they will appear to try to do so. As I explained in the Cosmic Conspiracy, this was forecast 2,000 years ago. In fact, probably 2,500 years ago, in the Book of Daniel. The alleged aliens are like beings from a parallel universe to ours, is the old record state. And certainly the super beings were here when mankind was created. And so they have traveled through time to our present day. And there's a great deception that's about to happen with the alleged aliens coming to save Earth from, various crisis curves that are facing us now. As far as a gag order, I don't take orders from anybody except the good Lord himself. And, and Holly occasionally.
Smart man.
Well, yeah, I like living. And, but there are things that I do not discuss in detail because of a lack of certainty on my part about the source, of the information, whether it's correct or whether it's disinformation. And there are things like that I don't want to stir people up unnecessarily and frighten them.
Okay, that I think is what Robert is talking about here. Now, Comet Ison, is that a concern? And when do you think, Robert, that Comet Ison is going to be an issue with us? And how much information should we know at this point, or could we know?
Robert, are you there?
Yeah, Robert, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Professor McCanney would be your source on that detailed information, but as you see from the information I just sent you, the sun has just opened up a vast coronal hole in the direction of the approach of Ison, and from the information I gave you on that site about the planetophysical nature of the universe, the sun is balancing the magnetic saturation of the solar sphere. So it is already responding to Ison at this great distance that it's at. It's not supposed to be showing up until September of this year. where it will be visible with the naked eye. So we're apparently dealing with an object, and as I say, Professor McHaney is your source for this information, that this is a very large, this is a very dangerous comet, and according to Professor McHaney, when it passes by Mars, it will envelop Mars inside of its coma, and he believes there will be an electrical discharge. This gives you an indication of what the mythology had talked about, Zeus throwing the lightning bolts. Now, we're told it's mythology. No, it's not mythology. These are events that happened in the distant past and have been relegated to mythology. These events have occurred, and they're likely to occur again. And as it passes by Mars, it may change its orbit. These comets' orbits do change by the influence of the planets they go by. And this could deviate. It's already coming fairly close to Earth. And when I say fairly, we're talking about several astronomical units. But still, if it changes its orbit and the Earth comes in proximity to Ison, we could very well have the same electrical exchanges that are predicted to take place between Mars and Ison.
Okay, let me go back, and unfortunately we're going to go to our next guest. I'd love to talk to you again, Robert. Thank you so very much for calling into the program today.
Yes.
I'm serious. Excellent call. Excellent call.
Wonderful show. Wonderful show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stan.
Oh, man. And now let me just ask Stan. Stan, do you agree, disagree with what Robert just said? Is Planet Ison something we should be watching? Do you watch Comet Ison? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is a sun grazer, and certainly it's worth watching, because if it does trigger a coronal mass ejection of large magnitude or a flare in our direction, planet Earth, this could cause a lot of the things that the biblical prophecies of the book of Revelation talk about with the sun, as far as it getting hot and burning trees and burning, boiling the fish on a third of the planet, which would be about the surface area that would be affected if something like that happened rapidly while the Earth was turning. Anyway, look, the electro discharge could well occur. I agree with Velikovsky and with McKinney and others that the solar system is an electrically charged system. Planets orbit where they have to. Those are stable orbits. And when a comet comes in, Venus could have been a comet or an incoming body that jumped orbits and down into where it is now, and it's the only planet that spins backwards very slowly. That's a whole discussion, and I think that Comet Ison could affect the sun now because of the orbital mechanics of that invisible fluid of space that determines where orbits have to be. It's like an invisible splash wave of circles around a star. So when it's out there, when that Comet Ison's way out there, it can be affecting orbit, the invisible orbit, the orbiting ether space, if you wish,